So welcome everyone to this session on Atlas and especially on how to use Atlas as an investor. So my name is Mathilde Beauin. I'm a research and development project officer at ADA, and ADA was one of the first co-financiers of Atlas. So this is why I will introduce the platform today. And we have with us Lucia Spaggiari, Innovation Director at MFR. So I guess all of you know that MFR is a rating agency specializing in sustainable finance. And Lucia is especially in charge of developing new services, including Atlas. Then we have Alain Lévy, Head of Microfinance and Social Entrepreneurship for Americas and Asia at BNP Paribas Company Engagement. So today, we are here to learn more about Atlas. So you know that after the closure of the mixed market in 2019, Atlas is now the new platform to make better data and benchmarks available for the whole financial inclusion industry. After 2 years from launch, so Atlas is now sustainable, which is very good news, with 16 subscribers to date. But of course, the idea is to get more investors and more international networks to join Atlas, to deepen industry collaboration on data, to build better benchmarks, since Atlas is now the only platform providing data on the whole sector, and also to make reporting more efficient for FSPs. So you will see that in a minute. So as I was saying, as one of the early co-founders of Atlas, I, in behalf of ADA, will introduce you to the initiative. And then Lucia from MFR, who is managing Atlas now, will show us how this works concretely. Then Alain from BNP Paribas will share an example of how Atlas can help an investor with portfolio data management. And finally, I will also quickly share the use we make of Atlas at ADA, just to complement the perspective given by Alain. And then we will be able to take questions from the audience. So for the short story, at the very beginning, ADA decided to support Atlas first to contribute to an initiative promoting transparency in the sector. And transparency not only on the financial side, but also on the social side, since Atlas was from the very beginning supposed to provide both types of data, social performance data and financial performance data. And actually, before calling it Atlas, because it was not called like that at the very beginning, we are calling it the social performance data platform. So at the very beginning, it was really to complement the mixed market, which was providing financial data with more social performance data. And finally, today, Atlas is the only remaining platform and provides both types of data. And actually, at the beginning, the idea was also to have a platform enabling to access data, but today, this is not only the case. Atlas can also be used to manage data and not only access data. And this is a real added value. It was not something we had fully anticipated at the beginning, but which finally meets a real need. And I think you will see how with Alain sharing his experience, and I will share also our experience on that. Another thing which was very important from the very beginning was to find a sustainable business model for the platform to avoid facing similar challenges at the mixed market. And you will see that today we can consider that this objective has been reached, at least for now. And the challenge now is to consolidate this achievement in the long term. And for that, we will need more investors, networks, other organizations using Atlas. So after the short story, maybe to give you some concrete facts about Atlas. And I think for that, yes, Lucia will share her screen. So today, Atlas is centralizing social and financial data of financial service providers. So now the platform covers 138 countries and 1,500 financial service providers with data in recent years. So I think recent years means for 3 years, but Lucia, if I'm wrong, you can correct me. Otherwise, the platform covers 3,600 FSPs with data in any year since 2011. So Atlas is managed by MFR, as we have said already, and this is done under the governance of sponsors and participating organizations, which include ADA, of course, but also AFD, Proparco, LED, CDC, SIDA, Ceres, SPTF, Microfact, and Mimosa. So as you can see, there are a lot of organizations involved in this initiative, and I guess this enables the platform to evolve as well. So as I was saying, the project has reached sustainability after 2 years from launch. So now Atlas covers 90% of its costs with subscriptions, and it should be even 100% starting from 2022. So of course, this is also thanks to the economies of scale and skills provided by MFR as a rating agency. But subscribers have increased over time. There are now 16. Just for you to know, subscription fees vary between 20,000 and 1,000 euros, depending on the type and size of subscriber. And subscribers include different kinds of organizations. So of course, investors, but also international networks. So among these 16 subscribers, we have in total 12 investors and international networks. And there are other types of organizations as well. Among the subscribers, just to give a few names, there are Opportunity International, EIB, Proparco, soon Recalculated and FMO, CGAP, e-MFP, of course, BNP Paribas and ADA as well. So now, how does it work in practice? So data are provided by a variety of sources, included MFR with ratings and certifications, but also including Ceres with SPI for audits, and of course, investors integrating or sharing their portfolio reporting with Atlas, professional associations sharing in general financial data, as well as public sources of financial statements. So MFR reclassifies these statements to calculate comparable ratios. So there is a treatment made by MFR. And finally, the historical databases of the mixed market and of microfinance transparency have been also imported in the platform. So data are updated either every quarter, semester, year, or with a different frequency, depending on the source of data. And which is something which is very important, data providers can decide to share their data with Atlas on a nominative or on an anonymized basis. So based on our experience, usually data providers choose nominative basis, but this is possible to choose anonymized basis as well. Finally, something about the quality of data, something very important as well. So any data that passes a minimum consistency check is welcome on Atlas. So usually data are shared by intermediaries such as investors or organizations working with FSPs, but FSPs can also share their data directly. However, to be transparent, since the degree of validation could vary depending on the data source, each data package is assigned with a reliability score, which is based on the depth of validation received, so that users can filter data also based on their reliability. And I think Lucia is sharing now the methodology to assign this reliability score. So if there are some questions about this methodology, they will be welcome at the end of the presentation. So I think this is enough for this introduction. I am right on time, 10 minutes. So I think now it's time to see how it looks like in practice. So Lucia, now over to you.
Thank you very much, Mathilde, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. Thanks for joining. First of all, let me thank ADA, BNP Paribas, the other co-founding and the other early subscribers, because it is relatively easy to join now that the platform has proven to be successful. But another story was to believe in this and to make this transparency infrastructure possible when this was a PowerPoint and Excel projections. So thanks for making this possible. Let us see how this works in practice. Data can be explored using this data menu where you can access different pages. I propose we start from custom search, which is our most flexible and used page. Here you can select indicators, which are organized in different categories, for example, financial, social, or environmental nature. To the right, you find a selection of essentially financial indicators. Let me add a few social ones. So I will add number of borrowers as well as percentage rural and percentage female. The indicators added appear to the right. You can then proceed to define what you want to select. Selection can be made in terms of regions, subregions, countries, one or more financial service providers, specific years you may be interested in, but also the source, the reliability score, as mentioned by Mathilde, currency, portfolios, if you are a portfolio owner, size of financial service providers, age, charter type, regulatory status, whether the institution is financially sustainable or not, deposit taking status, lending methodology, as well as some digital filters in the process of being developed. You can then proceed and define if you wish to include a benchmark or not. And if so, the benchmark filters mirror the ones above. Let us keep this very simple for the first use case where we can select one financial service provider. And compare it against its region, which is South and Southeast Asia. For each of the financial and social indicators that we have selected, we obtain a graph. If the indicator is associated according to Atlas methodology to a positive contribution to a sustainable development goal, you will see the SDG icon flagged. For each of the indicators, we have one graph where in orange, I can see the selection, in this case, one institution from India, and in blue, I can see the benchmark, in this case, South and Southeast Asia. If I go over the bar, I can see that the benchmark includes 356 financial service providers from different sources for an average par 30 of 6.3%. The default returns the average for the last 3 years of analysis. When you click on the graph, you can see the trend over time in both your selection and the benchmark. And if you wish to normalize the composition of the benchmark across periods, you can click to only show organizations with data for all periods. Data can be downloaded as graph, as PDF. They can be downloaded as Excel, seen in many different flexible ways. Searches can also be broader. For example, let's consider a number of, in this case, client protection, gender, and environmental and rural indicators, where we have made a global selection to see some benchmarks. For example, we can take a look at the APR, annual percentage rate of financial service providers, and we may wish to see this by charter type, where the lowest is cooperatives and the highest two seem to be non-bank financial institutions and NGOs. Or we can check client protection from social rating and client protection certification scores by region, with Sub-Saharan Africa being the lowest and the highest being Europe and Central Asia and South and Southeast Asia. Prevention of over-indebtedness score may be seen, for instance, by lending methodology to appreciate differences, or percentage of gross loan portfolio in agriculture may be seen by size of organization. So here we notice an interesting inverse relationship between size of assets and share of agriculture portfolio. Or we may take a look at the green index score, and in this case we can see by scale, or we could also see by country if needed. Female versus male average loan balance is an indication of the distance between the average loan size to female borrowers and male, to go a bit beyond the gender outreach. And here I propose we take a look at the breakdown by charter type, with bank being the lowest and NGO the highest. I propose we take a look at the sustainability performance of financial service providers by percentage of female managers. As well as the percentage of female members of the board by sub-region, which is very important. Geography is very important for these type of indicators. All right, now look, in times of sustainable finance disclosure regulation and pandemics, data and benchmarks are even more important. Fund managers may wish or may need to strengthen their systems to collect, monitor, and report on the areas needed under the SFDR, including BASIS indicators, ESG indicators, sustainability-related impacts, as well as alignment to taxonomies. Atlas can help in a few respects, including collecting data from investees, providing trend and benchmark analysis on both the individual investees and at the portfolio level. And also for those investors who wish to go beyond the input and output indicators into outcomes, dedicated impact assessment services are available from MFR to generate outcome data that is unfortunately difficult to report still for a good number of financial service providers, with a methodology that integrates the MIS transactional data with the client surveys on the field. This strengthens the compliance to SFDR, but also allows fund managers to report more robust methodologies and results and strengthen internal decision making. Let us put ourselves in the shoes of an investor then who wishes to monitor her portfolio on a number of social, gender, and environmental indicators that you see on the screen. What we will use is now a filter which is called portfolio, where I will select sample portfolio 1, which is not a real portfolio, but a mock-up one, only composed of 6 financial service providers. And so as a benchmarks, I will choose the 6 countries where the 6 FSPs in the portfolio operate. Here I can see in orange now, not one single financial service provider, but the simple average of the organizations that are part of my portfolio. And I can benchmark my performance, for example, in outreach with the other financial service providers in the same countries of operation. We can do this for the different indicators available. Loan size. By the way, I can also click to show the individual performance of individual FSPs in the portfolio, in addition to the average. the rural outreach, the percentage of portfolio in trade, which is one of the most important productive uses, as well as agriculture, production, gender outreach to borrowers, and gender representation among the staff. The portfolio filter is private, meaning that it is only the investor or the international network owner of that portfolio, when she logs in, will see her portfolio in the portfolio menu. However, an asset manager can decide if she wishes to grant access to, say, an asset owner to her portfolio. So if this happens, what an asset owner could potentially do is she will be able to compare, for example, a sample portfolio, now not with a number of countries, but rather with another investment opportunity. So I will choose here sample portfolio 2 as a way to compare objectively and beyond the annual reports, the performance of the underlying assets in different funds. For example, in terms of breadth of outreach, proxies for depth of outreach, rural outreach, and composition of sectors in the portfolio. Other analytics are also available. The trend page is essentially financial, where we can monitor over time the performance of one investee or a portfolio in terms of profitability and sustainability, portfolio yield, and breakdown of the key cost components, portfolio quality with the usual suspects, par 30 write-off, restructured, and risk coverage ratio, important these days, productivity, asset structure, liabilities and equity structure, and so on. One thing that we clearly didn't want to lose in the industry is the great lessons learned and the public funding that went together from the Microfinance Transparency Initiative led by Chuck Waterfield, as many of you may remember. So this page is the heritage from those methodologies and great lessons learned. We haven't reinvented any wheel to analyze an aspect that remains essential for the reputation and social and financial balance in our industry. Here we make an example where we compare one institution in Bolivia to its country. A note of caution, APR is the single data point that is most difficult to get and most difficult to get right because of its complexity. So APR data is the one area where we have less data available on Atlas compared to other financial and social indicators. But still, analytics and some data are available, as we can see here on the screen, where you will recognize the price curve Chuck Waterfield used to teach all of us about. In orange, you can see the selected institution from Bolivia. Each orange bubble is one loan for this institution, of which we know the full annual percentage rate on the vertical dimension, including interest, fee, mandatory insurance, mandatory taxes, and mandatory deposits, the only comparable way. And on the horizontal dimension, the loan size. The blue bubbles are the benchmark that we have selected as Bolivia in this case. And the dark blue line is the average for this benchmark. So one exercise we can already do is we can understand whether the orange selected institution bubbles stay above or below the average in the market. Data can also be seen not only at the loan level, but at the loan product level or at the financial service provider average level. What I prefer is actually the product level view. It is also possible to see the relationship between APR and interest transparency index, which is the distance between the nominative interest rate and the annual percentage rate. And here we see an inverse relationship whereby the higher the APR, the lower, unfortunately, the transparency index. A matrix is available to describe loans of similar loan term and similar loan size and compare the selection against the benchmark in terms of APRs. And one thing we always advise when we speak pricing is to look at the profitability and cost indicators, including returns, needs for capitalization, to put things in context, portfolio yield and cost components, but also other potential justifications for pricing, including rural outreach, scale, again, loan size, regulatory costs, non-financial services, etc. The client protection page is aligned with the client protection standards included in the Universal Standards of Social Performance Management, former SMART campaign. Here we can take a look at one organization in Uganda and compare it to its region to see in orange, the score for the selected institution, which is 56, and in blue, the average for the benchmark, which is not necessarily very high in Africa, but in this case helps understanding that a 56% is not so bad in the context, broken down by the principles of client protection. If we need, we can also go ahead and see some concise comments as well as some trends. Very important is also the Ceres SPI4 page, which is a module dedicated to Ceres SPI4 audit data. We synchronize data with Ceres every 6 months for the SPI4 audits that receive authorization to be shared with Atlas. Here we can see one example of one institution from Zambia compared to the global benchmark to recognize the overall performance as well as the performance by dimension that can be benchmarked in blue and broken down by different standards with a deep dive on client protection. Subscribers use Atlas in many different ways. BNP is one example of an investor outsourcing the data monitoring flow to Atlas, but ADA is an example of a subscriber still keeping the data collection process in-house and sharing data with Atlas at a later stage. So we will now hear from the two experiences. Please, Alain, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Lucia. Thanks, everybody, for the invitation. First, it's important to say at the beginning that BNP Paribas has no stake at all in Atlas. So if I'm here and I'm invited to share my experiences as a customer, and I think it really matters to share this experience because, as it was said before, Atlas is a very useful platform for all the stakeholders of microfinance, and more than before after the closing of mixed market. So it increased the transparency in the market, and for this, it's really, really important to have that kind of tool. So regarding BNP Paribas, we started Atlas 1 year ago, and we wanted to outsource our reporting, or microfinance reporting, because it was very, very time consuming. And so we have the possibility of Atlas, and we analyzed the functionality with Lucia, and we saw that the tool was very flexible because the tool, the platform enables us to keep our main indicators that we were following before, the main structure that we have in our reporting. So it was not such a big change for us, but after in terms of process, in terms of rapidity, there's no comparison at all. So regarding once we have designed the needs that we have with Atlas, we contact our investees and we define with them and with Atlas a process for the collection of the data. So we outsource to Atlas the capacity to contact, we delegate to contact our investees. And so they made the collection for us every quarter. Of course, we are in the loop on every email, every contact, but also there is a trust relationship with Atlas to enable them to contact our investees. And once we get the quarterly data, we are able to. Atlas is performing some tests on the data. So the first test is a consistency test to ensure that we have not a big mistake, no big digit mistake, as we can have generally in that kind of reporting. So we have a good quality of the data that we have, and after we can select also accuracy test. So this one is not is optional. You have to pay extra fee for this, but as it was mentioned before, in terms of scoring of the reliability of the data, you have a higher score in terms of reliability of your data when you use that kind of test. And after this test, we can produce the report that we have. So we have different report, consolidated report, spreadsheet for the MFI, main ratio. So here, what you can see, Lucia is displaying a spreadsheet that we use. So it's very useful because as many investors, every time when we have a credit proposal, when we want to disburse a new facility, we have to make a spreadsheet with an analysis of the balance sheet and the P&L of the NMFI. And here, as Atlas is collecting all the data of the MFI, they generate automatically spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet that you see has been fit to the template of what we were doing before in BNP Paribas. So here, if the investees has a direct flow, if your investees have a direct flow with Atlas, well, you can generate very automatically your spreadsheet. You can see the main ratio, you can see the evolution of the asset. So it's very, very useful in terms of follow-up. Maybe after we can go to the next slide. Yes, about the consolidated report. So for the consolidated report, yes. So here, if not, I can. Okay. So here you have an example also about the consolidation that we make at the level of BNP Paribas about the data. So this is here. This is the main data that we have, that we collect, and it enables us after to make a quarterly reporting. So what is good also, once we have that kind of data, we export them on the Excel spreadsheet, and after you can design your Excel spreadsheet to have a very nice reporting with all the graphics that you want and so on. So here, this is mainly roof data. Regarding also what was also very useful, there was also something that we ask a development to Atlas, because in our reporting, we have at the same time the portfolio of BNP Paribas and the analysis of our investees. And we wanted to have the both set of data in the same reporting. So Atlas developed a tool for us. And so they put in their system also the portfolio of BNP Paribas. So here we have the main outstanding, the main authorization of BNP Paribas, as we can see also, and we can follow up also the trend of our outstanding and make some comparison also with the analysis of each investee. So it's very useful because finally we have in the platform data, in the platform Atlas, all the data that we want to follow up. After here, so it was a bit also shown by Lucia. You can monitor all the ratio that you want for your investees, and you can have also different kind of breakdown. So here you can see that you have some breakdown by sub-region, for instance, regarding the portfolio of BNP Paribas. So here, this is the portfolio breakdown, but after you can have by country, you can have, you can use all the axes that you want. And what is good also is you can, yes, after you can go to the, we love this functionality. So it was also shown by Lucia, but it's very useful also to us to see, okay, how is the market in comparison with BNP Paribas is doing? It's very good to know what is our position. And with the custom chart, so you can look for any indicator. So here, for instance, you have the par 30. In this par 30, you can see in orange, this is the par 30 for the data for some investees of BNP Paribas. And after, for the blue side, you can compare with what is the par in the country or in the region selected. So you can see if you are performing well or if you are performing badly. And you can also, it's very helpful to make the good decision in terms of investment, in terms of financing. So here also you can see that you have also many breakdown possible in terms of years, in terms of region, investees, and you can select also other indicators, not only par 30. We use par 30 here because this is one of the very famous indicator. But yeah, for instance, you can see portfolio yield. So here we can see that regarding the portfolio of BNP Paribas. Well, we are in phase with the market, we are online, and there is no surprise regarding the yield which are performed by our investees. So here this is mainly the experience of BNP Paribas. After we are going to develop more, and also regarding the SPI4 section. Of course, we are very interested to look more at this section, and also to include that in our credit proposal, because also we can make some benchmark regarding the social performance, which will be very useful. Regarding this Atlas experience, my word will be to encourage every investor, every stakeholder to go and to subscribe to this platform, because first, this is a very tremendous, amazing initiative in the market, and we need that kind of initiative to get a transparent market, but also because it's very also useful for the MFI. With the MFI, you will avoid an extra workload. Because finally, when you will ask for some set of reporting, some balance sheet or some, well, you can go to Atlas and you can collect the data that you want in the shape that you want, What you need also, what we need only is that the MFI gets the flow with Atlas, and after you can get everything that you want. So this is very simple, and many MFIs are telling us now, yes, we don't want to take too many investors. It's a lot of work for us. It's too expensive. So we select now the number of funding partners that we want. But with that kind of tool, you avoid that this argument. So this is my conclusion regarding Atlas. Please subscribe. And let's speak now with Mathilde, because also she has another kind of experience to share with us.
Yes, thank you very much, Alain. Actually, I can only join you on this call. But first, I will share indeed our experience within ADA with Atlas. So it's a bit different because, as you may know, ADA is not only an investor. We have two main types of activities. We manage technical assistance projects with MFIs or other financial service providers. And we have also a team dedicated to investments as they advise an external investment fund. So I will start with the investment side. So actually they use Atlas a bit differently from BNP Paribas, because indeed they are collecting the data themselves. So they are keeping this activity internally. Then they use Atlas to share their data, first to contribute to this transparency initiative, actually. This is one of the objectives. Then they are not using Atlas to centralize and manage data because they have their own system to do it. However, as BNP Paribas, they also use Atlas to get benchmarks and to see what is their position in the market. So they use the benchmarks and they use the same functionality. So they use the graphs comparing their portfolio with the market to share it in their reports, in their committee, in their investment committees, this kind of thing. So for them, it's also a real added value to get these benchmarks, actually. Then on the technical assistance side, it's a bit different because we are also collecting the data internally. But then we are using Atlas to centralize this data and to manage the data and to get the consolidated view. And for us, it's very important because consolidating data, I guess for everyone using data, you know that, but it's very time consuming. It's very painful. What we want in the end is just the analysis. So Atlas is doing this work for us. So how does it work concretely? Some of you may know the tool Microfact fact sheet. So we are collecting data through this Microfact fact sheet. So MFIs fill this fact sheet, and then we just have to share the fact sheet with Atlas very simply by email or by clicking on a button on the platform. So we share the individual fact sheets because actually we get data from each individual FSP. We send it to Atlas, and then we get on Atlas the consolidated view. And we can have the average of each indicator we want. And we can, we use Atlas for that to track the trends of the performance of our MFI partners, the ones with which we do technical assistance. And we also use the benchmark functionality, let's say, to compare the trends of our MFI partners with the market. And for us, this centralizing aspect and consolidating aspect is very important. It saves us a lot of time. Then another thing very interesting also mentioned by Alain is the SPI4 data. And this will be something new. I don't know if it's already functional or not, but in the custom page, you will be able to select financial indicators, social indicators, but also SPI4 scores. And so you will get all this data in one single consolidated page, and you will be even able to track the evolution of financial data and the evolution of social data at the same time. You will be able to get the social SPI4 scores, let's say, compared to a benchmark as well. And this is also a real added value when you want to to highlight the evolution of the performance of your partners, both on the financial side and the social side. So yeah, for us, it's also definitely a very useful tool. Another thing I can share about our experience is that actually Atlas or MFR managing Atlas is indeed very flexible and very available. They are always ready to listen to our specific requests, and they are also always ready to do another demo, because indeed at the beginning you need to learn how to use the platform. It's not necessarily easy for everyone at the beginning, depending on your ability to use this kind of platform. So, but they are always ready to do demo, to explain how to use the platform and to show what is possible to do. If we want to customize at least at a minimum things, we can always do some requests, and MFR is always ready to listen to these requests and see how to make it concrete, to turn it into a concrete result. So this is very appreciated. What I can say is also that the platform is still evolving, actually. It's not over, even if now it's already working very well. But for instance, we also use the platform in prospection, either for TA or for investment. So it's also very useful to have an idea of the market in a specific country. It could be also very useful to see directly the data from a specific FSP we would like to work with, either for investment or for technical assistance. And this will become possible in a near future, I think, to just see for a specific MFI which data are available and to have a look at the evolution of this specific MFI on a selection of data. So many things are possible on Atlas. I think that indeed it's also important to remind that Atlas is the only platform available right now to get data on the whole industry. There is nothing else. And to ensure that the platform is becoming more and more representative of the sector, it's indeed very important that other investors or national or international networks or any kind of organization joins to share more and more data and more quality data, actually. So I think we will stop there to have time to take some questions if there were some. I don't see anything in the discussion. Yes, and now in Q&A we have some questions. So we have some questions from Anne-Laure Beagel. I don't know from which organization, but maybe Anna, as you are the only one to ask question, you could ask your question directly. Is it possible in the webinar? Actually,
otherwise, I can read out loud if
yeah,
useful.
It's just to enable Anna to. I know she cannot. Okay, so let's read the questions. So I'm reading the questions. So what is the strategy to increase the uptake by FSP and gather always more data points in Atlas and access meaningful benchmarks? So this is indeed a very important question. So let's stop here and I'll let Lucia answer.
Thanks a lot. Strategy is twofold. Number one, with subscribers. As Alain and Mathilde shared, there are many flexible ways in which investors and international networks and professional associations can share their data to get in return, given your second question, Anne-Laure, thanks. So any data providers receives for free, reporting is for free, and they also receive for free something called the benchmark overview, which is much simpler compared to the analytics options available to subscribers, but still provides some high-level information. Here we have an example of one institution. They can be reporting because they wish to, or they can be in a portfolio of an investor or a member of a national or regional association to be able to see in orange their own data. They remain data owners. Data ownership never gets transferred. We simply manage data. So they can always see their own data plus a regional benchmark if they agree to share data with Atlas subscribers in a nominative manner, or the global benchmark if they prefer to share data anonymized with Atlas subscribers. This is available for any of the indicators of which they share data.
Yes, then we have another question. What is the source of data for APR, self-reported or recalculated by MFR?
Yes, very good question. For now, 95% of the source is MFR. As I was mentioning, unfortunately, APR can get quite complex, and it can be, unfortunately, there can be many ways in which important components of APR may not end up in the calculation. But we would like, so in addition to providing data from ratings and certifications, which have a relatively high reliability score, we are open to receiving APR data from as many sources as possible. One thing that we do in this case is we review the reliability score based on the methodology and the calculation tool that is used to calculate APR. And in this methodology, self-reporting versus external review is also taken into account.
Okay, then where do the scores for client protection stem from?
This is also, for now, mainly ratings and client protection certifications. There is unfortunately some relationship between, client protection is very related to reputational risk. And so it is sometimes difficult to find very mixed results in self-reported data. So that the current situation is that the data, to give you an idea, the total score of client protection is of a median of 73% and an average of 72%. If you had the same on self-reported data, you may find a different result. However, we are definitely open to other sources where the reliability score would also be applied. So the platform is built to accept and welcome any data, but then the rule of the game is transparency. So then users can filter in or out the reliabilities that they wish to see.
Yeah, we have other types of questions. So from someone from Kathmandu, representing an FSP actually, and asking if you could brief about registration process so they can provide their data.
With great pleasure, dear colleagues. So you can go to this page. I will copy the link in a second. And here you can download the suggested Excel template to input your building blocks. So what we request is the amounts in local currency instead of the calculated indicators, of which we take care. And then you can kindly submit your data indicating your name using this form. This will not directly go to the database, but it will be first consistency checked. We will get in contact with email with you and then provide you access to the benchmark overview that you can get for free.
Another question from Impulse. Is Atlas also aligned with the green index for the environmental indicators in the microfinance sector?
Very important question. MFR is many things. One of the things it is not is a standard setter. The role that we play is the one of bees, if you want. So we try to disseminate as much as possible to the best of our capacity existing international frameworks and good practices in the work that we do. One of the consequences of this philosophy is that, yes, we want to be aligned to the Green Index, to the SPI4, to the universal standards of social performance management, and follow their evolution over time. So the Green Index that you see now will be soon updated with the new methodology, taking care of the comparability with historical benchmark data, which is one of the tasks a rating agency need to be able to do, so that we remain aligned.
Okay, there is another similar question still from Impulse. Is it aligned with another extra financial benchmark, for example, the gender dimension with the 2x challenge? I don't know what it is exactly, so I don't know if you know it. Yeah.
So we are 2x challenge is a very interesting initiative. I can tell you the example of subscriber ProParco, which is also adhering to this initiative as other DFIs, and we are also monitoring those indicators for them. So, you know, the platform hosts thousands of indicators, many of which are related to gender. There are many different ways in which gender indicators can be sliced and diced. It is simply a choice of the subscriber to let us know which indicators they wish to monitor, and we will do this for them.
Then some questions from the research side, because indeed we can say that there are different kinds of subscribers and could be universities for research as well. And so there is a question for academic research. Many journals now require to disclose databases after publication. So they are asking if it's possible to disclose this type of data to journal publishers.
Thanks for the question. This is interesting to keep in the radar. It may be challenging to do this currently, but we would definitely be available to be a contact point for, you know, to be mentioned in the research in case of additional information needed.
Another question, is it possible to see the data library with all the definition and explanation about the source and reliability of data? Is it available on the platform?
Sure. So this page, data subscription is available to the public. You do not need a login. And this will enable you to explore data availability by a number of things, including transparency, nominative share versus anonymized share of data, regions. For research purposes, there is also some indication of how much panel data is available, as well as data availability by country. In terms of catalog of indicators available, but please note, not all indicators are available in the same volume, but still, the full catalog of indicators is available in this brochure that you can download from the site. Divided by categories. For definitions, this is something that is typically available once you have subscribed, and the definition of the indicators is available under each graph.
Yes, and then there is a description of the reliability score methodology, which is used to give the score.
Right. So,
and then the score depends on each data point, actually. Or, yeah, the score varies for each data point or each data source.
Right. The score is an attribute of the data report. So the same source can have MFR, for example, typically has scores ranging from 1 to 2 to 3 and to 4, depending on what we do. Is it that we simply reclassify financial statements, fund on public sites, or is it that we spend 2 weeks on the field to review a financial service provider as part of a rating or a certification? So you can find the methodology for reliability and download in the user guide, as we have mentioned earlier.
Okay, perfect. So I think now it's time. Time is over. But thank you very much to Lucia and to Alain to share this demo and this experience. Thank you all for your questions. We hope that we were able to answer them and that you will be convinced that it would be interesting to join this initiative. So I guess Lucia will remain available by email to answer any question. If you still have some, and then we wish you a good conference.
Thank you very much, Mathilde. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you.